and New South Wales One Nation Senator Sean Bell. You two gentlemen must be pretty relaxed knowing that you've got your climate policies all sorted out. Of course, this week a big one for the Liberals. They're promising a position on net zero by the end of the week, of course. If the Liberals stick with net zero, Matt doesn't think they will, but if they did, it'd be pretty untenable for Matt and his mates to stick with the Liberals as a coalition, wouldn't it?
James, at times like this, I'm glad I'm with a party that has had a strong and consistent position on this from the very beginning, which makes things very, very easy. And so what I think we've got is, I think you're right, I don't know how the Nationals stick with the Liberal Party if they do stay with net zero. And the other question is, the Liberal Party itself could be in danger. Because like you said, there are 20 Liberal MPs who are that opposed to a policy as sensible as scrapping net zero, then I think it calls into the question the future of the Liberal Party as a whole.
Sean, there's good news for One Nation in this poll. Voters were asked who they trusted most to handle the cost of living, Labor or Liberal, and 30% said neither or someone else.
I mean, and that's unsurprising. When you look at the policies that have been delivered for a long time by both the major parties, it's unsurprising, because you'll see, again, for a very long time, that position on this policies like net zero by the major parties has been in lockstep. And so it's unsurprising to see people looking elsewhere. And so when you've got parties like One Nation who've been very consistent on this and very consistent in explaining to people that net zero means higher power bills, net zero means that, you know, sometimes you're going to have to be there choosing between whether you feed your kids or you feed yourself, that they are going to be looking for alternatives. And so they are going to say, well, these other options are extremely worthwhile.
All right, let's talk about new data from the OECD's annual Climate Action Monitor that shows global climate policy action is stalling. Let me read you some of it. The flagship publication of the OECD's International Programme for Action on Climate said momentum on emissions reduction had slowed significantly since 2021, and the world was still well off track to meet its declared climate commitments by the end of the decade. Sean, why is momentum slowing around the world? We're told we're at risk of global boiling. We're on a highway to climate hell. We had Prince William just the other day over in Brazil talking about how this is the great moral issue of our time. We've got to do something. And yet we're seeing this momentum, no matter how many COP conferences they hold, is slowing down. Why is that?
It's because these other countries, they know the truth. I mean, they know that all of this action that they could be taking is for nothing, and they're turning around and they've decided they're going to choose to deliver cheaper energy and a better cost of living for their people. And it seems that while that's all going on, Anthony Albanese, Chris Bowen, they're going to continue with this blunder because they're more interested in pandering to the teals than delivering cheaper energy, better outcomes for the Australian people.
I reckon you're right, and their views on things like pro-Palestinian protests are probably shaped by their desire to pander to certain segments of the community as well. It seems to be the way they do policy, Matt. The government's caught in a pincer movement of their own making on this. Their policies are causing electricity prices to rise. At the same time, they want to fight cost of living, so the temptation to keep rebates going would be very strong, but then they've got to try and keep the budget in some semblance of acceptability. So they're really stuck, aren't they? And it's all their own doing.
100%. One Nation warned when Labor proposed this policy that it was only a matter of time. It wouldn't work because eventually they'd run out of other people's money to spend. And ultimately, one of the main motivators of Labor doing it in the first place was actually an accounting trick. They wanted to lower inflation on paper to mask over the real inflation in the economy that was being caused by rising electricity prices. They did that to artificially try to bring down inflation, and now, unfortunately, it's snapping back at the worst possible time.
But the protesters, they're still camped in the same spot. The PM's gone, but they're continuing to harass church members. So I'm just wondering, Sean, what's that all about? I thought they would have moved on. Why are they still there, do you reckon?
Look, everyone needs a hobby, don't they? I mean, the thing is, like, Anthony Albanese is getting a taste of his own medicine. When you pander to these radical activists, then eventually you're going to have to be dealing with them. I mean, if we think about, I think about some of the things that Senator Hanson's dealt with over the time. This is sort of part and parcel of being in politics. You do hope that these people don't start overstepping the bounds. You do hope that, you don't want them to take it too far. But ultimately, when you play with fire, you get burned.